Jade Cargill hospitalized after assaulted by Nia Jax. What happens when two of the most physically dominant forces in WWE collide, and one of them takes things way too far? What happens when Nia Jax, the irresistible force herself, unleashes an assault so brutal that it sends Jade Cargill, the woman whom many consider nearly indestructible, to the hospital? The WWE Universe is in absolute shock right now, because Jade Cargill is not backstage icing a bruise. She is legitimately hospitalized after Nia Jax delivered a beatdown that crossed every line imaginable. Welcome back to WWE Extreme, where today we are breaking down this devastating attack, why it happened, and what this means for both superstars going forward. Before we dive into this absolutely insane situation, hit that subscribe button and smash the notification bell, because when WWE delivers this level of chaos and brutality, you need to be here for every update, every reaction, and every shocking development that follows. So let us talk about what went down, because this was not a match that got out of hand. This was a premeditated assault that looked more like a mugging than a wrestling angle. Nia Jax ambushed Jade Cargill backstage, catching her completely off guard in a moment when Jade was not prepared to defend herself. And from there, Nia just unleashed absolute hell. We were talking about power moves on concrete floors, strikes that had zero regard for safety, and a level of aggression that made everyone watching wonder if this was still entertainment or if we were witnessing something genuinely dangerous. And the scary part? Jade Cargill is one of the toughest women in all of professional wrestling. This is someone who has been presented as damn near unstoppable since she debuted. Someone whose physical presence alone intimidates most of the roster. If Nia Jax can hospitalize Jade Cargill, then nobody is safe. That is the message this attack sends. And it is a terrifying message because it establishes Nia as the kind of threat that does not care about reputation, status, or consequences. She just wants to hurt people, and she is more than capable of doing it. Now let us talk about why this happened, because in WWE, nothing happens without a reason, even if that reason is completely unhinged. Nia Jax has been on a tear lately, destroying everyone in her path and making it clear that she believes she is the most dominant force in the women's division. Jade Cargill, meanwhile, has been climbing the ranks with her own brand of intimidation and power, positioning herself as a future champion and a threat to everyone at the top. So you have two alphas, two dominant personalities, two women who refuse to bow to anyone, and eventually, that collision was inevitable. The only question was how violent it would be, and boy did we get our answer. But here is where this situation gets really interesting, the power dynamic. Jade Cargill has been protected since she arrived in WWE. She has been booked strong, she has been presented as special, and she has been built up as someone destined for greatness. Nia Jax just shattered that protection in the most brutal way possible. By hospitalizing Jade, Nia proved that all the hype, all the presentation, all the careful booking means nothing when someone is willing to cross lines and inflict real damage. That is not just a physical beating. That is a psychological destruction of Jade's aura of invincibility. And let's talk about Nia Jax for a second, because this attack cements her as the most dangerous heel in WWE right now. Nia has always been portrayed as a powerhouse, but there has been a shift recently. She is not just strong anymore, she is malicious. She is not just defeating opponents, she is trying to end careers. And hospitalizing Jade Cargill, one of the most physically impressive women on the roster, sends a message to every other superstar. If you get in Nia's way, you're not just going to lose, you're going to get hurt. That is heat you cannot buy. That is fear you cannot fake. And that is the kind of villain character that makes wrestling must-see television. But now let us flip the script and talk about what this means for Jade Cargill's character and career trajectory. Being hospitalized, especially this early in her WWE run, could have been a death sentence for her momentum. But here is the thing. If WWE books this correctly, this could actually be the best thing that ever happened to Jade's character. Nothing creates sympathy and fan investment like watching a badass get taken down by a cowardly attack. When Jade returns, and she will return, she's going to have the entire WWE Universe behind her demanding revenge. That is how you turn a powerhouse into a hero, and that is how you set up a grudge match that people will pay serious money to see. And you know what makes this situation even more compelling? The size and physicality of both women. This is not your typical David versus Goliath story. This is Goliath versus Goliath, two absolute units colliding with enough force to shake the foundation of the arena. When these two eventually have their full match, when Jade is clear to return and gets her hands on Nia, it is going to be the kind of Haas fight that wrestling fans live for. No fancy technical exchanges, no high-flying athleticism, just two powerful women beating the hell out of each other until one of them cannot get up. That is primal, that is exciting, and that is exactly the kind of match that stands out in an era of increasingly similar wrestling styles. But let us address the elephant in the room, the safety concerns. Nia Jax has a history, and we all know it. There have been incidents over the years where Nia's matches have resulted in injuries, where her work has been called stiff or reckless, where questions have been raised about whether she should modify her style. Now, whether those criticisms are fair or overblown is a debate for another video. But the point is that when Nia is involved in a storyline where someone gets hospitalized, it hits different because there is always that whisper of doubt about where the work ends and the shoot begins. And that ambiguity is actually part of what makes this angle so effective. Fans are genuinely concerned about Jade Cargill's well-being. People are questioning whether Nia went too far, whether WWE should have let this happen, whether there should be consequences beyond just storyline ramifications. That blurring of reality and fiction is wrestling at its most powerful, but it is also wrestling at its most controversial because you're playing with real emotions and real concerns about performer safety. Now let us talk about what happens next, because WWE has a lot of options here, and how they play this will determine whether this becomes a legendary angle or a cautionary tale. Option 1. Jade returns in a few weeks, absolutely furious and laser-focused on revenge. Option 2. Jade is out for months, building up anticipation for her return in M. So when we talk about Jade Cargill being hospitalized after being assaulted by Nia Jax, we're talking about way more than just a backstage attack. We're talking about a star-making angle for both women, a feud that has the potential to be one of the most physically intense rivalries in WWE history, and a storyline that is making everyone pay attention to the women's division in a major way. This is bold, this is brutal, and this is exactly the kind of content that reminds us why we tune in every week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.